All right, let's talk some Niners here. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Senior hanging out here with you. A couple of things that I want to get to here on the show. We have some big Niners injury news going into this Niners-Seahawks game on Saturday night, which will determine the NFC West, the number one seed and home field advantage in the NFC, and how Kyle Shanahan views this Niners-Seahawks tilt. And is this game a rivalry considering how much San Francisco has dominated Seattle in recent memory? It's all coming up here on the program, but do want to say Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you all had a great start to your 2026 last night into this morning. You rang in the new year with a bang. And of course, thank you for your continued support here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. What I do wouldn't be possible without all of you watching the show, continuing to come back. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage of the Niners. Here we go. Trent Williams injury update, a big topic of conversation throughout this week. The future Hall of Fame left tackle being listed by the team a little while ago on this Thursday, January 1st, as questionable going into this Saturday night matchup with that hamstring injury that he suffered on the pick six to start the game against the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football. And he was trying to make a tackle on TJ Edwards, who returned that interception and deflection off of Jalen Johnson into the hands of Edwards. And Trent Williams was trying to do his best to stop TJ Edwards from getting into the end zone for a pick six on the opening play of the ball game. And I thought Jalen Johnson, by the way, made a really nice play on that Brock Purdy throw intended for Jawan Jennings. And you saw Trent Williams immediately come up lame with that hamstring injury. And right after that, he took the tape off of his wrists. He didn't have his helmet on, and you could tell he just wasn't coming into the game. Older player, soft tissue injury, impossible to play if you're playing any position, especially at that left tackle spot. And so questionable going into this game against Seattle. There's a little bit of a positive spin on this, right? Because he hasn't been ruled out yet, and we're later in the week. Given this is a short week for San Francisco and this game is on Saturday night. Kyle Shanahan did say today that Trent Williams has made good progress throughout this week, so that's also a positive. If the Niners are without him, Austen Pleasants will start at left tackle. I thought Pleasants played really well against the Chicago Bears. The Niners had a ton of success through the air. Brock Purdy throwing for over 3 bills. And then on the ground, San Francisco running for more than 100 yards. And the Niners scored 42 points in the ball game. But this Seahawks defense, so much better than the Bears defense. And so if Pleasants has to go again, and I imagine that's going to be the case because it is a very quick turnaround for Trent Williams and the Niners need him over the long haul, Pleasants is going to have his work cut out for him. And I guarantee you, Mike McDonald, being the great defensive mind that he is going to devise plays in which Seattle really tests Austen Pleasants, knowing also that he's protecting the blind side of Brock Purdy. Trent Williams this year, even at 37 years old, playing awesome football. Overall PFF grade of 91.5. That is third among all tackles in the game. A pass blocking grade of 79.9. That is 10th. But a run blocking grade of 92.8. That is second in the NFL among all offensive tackles. So this is what an all-time great looks like. Even when he's 37 years old, still a dominant player. He said after that Colts game on the set with Scott Van Pelt, when Niner fans were on the road cheering him and the Niners on, one more year. And Trent Williams is like, I got a few more years left. The unfortunate part is that he is injured quite often. He's never played a full season with the 49ers. The positive, though, plays an important position. And even though he's still old, he is still playing at a very elite level. You look at some of the other numbers too. 4 sacks allowed this year, 4 penalties, 8 hits allowed, 32 pressures. So I think that is a sign and an indication of him getting a little bit older, but he's still steamrolling guys. He's still pancaking cats. He's still moving well on pull blocks in the open field. Still an incredibly important player to this Niners team, both in the locker room and on the field. Culturally, team captain for a reason, and an all-time great. As far as George Kittle also being listed as questionable for this game, kind of a different situation than Trent Williams. There's some doubt, and I would be surprised if Trent Williams does play. I would be surprised if George Kittle does not play. I expect Kittle to be on the field. He's been on the practice field this week for the Niners, and the belief is that he's going to be able to play against Seattle. And Jake Tonches is a great developmental story for the Niners. I tweeted this out after he caught couple passes early on in the game. Like, this is what a legitimate NFL caliber tight end looks like. And he's turned into a really legit player. Good size, good hands, moves really well, can pick up yards after the catch. And it's great that he's developed into a viable backup tight end behind George Kittle as a pass catcher, because the Niners haven't been able to find that type of guy. But he's not George Kittle. Nobody is. George Kittle is the best player in the game. So if George Kittle can't play in this game too, Trent Williams is also out. You're going up against one of the top defenses in the NFL. That would hurt this Niners offense. And some bad news here. It looks like it could be raining on Saturday night in Santa Clara, and that could turn this game, especially when you're without two of your best offensive players, into more of a low-scoring game. And the Niners defense, not great. Does that favor Seattle if that does come to fruition? The other thing with George Kittle, too, and everybody wants to focus in on catches and yak and red zone targets and how he thrives in the red zone as a pass catcher, how fun it is to see him rumbling after the catch, breaking tackles and steamrolling guys. The Niners' run game efficiency with George Kittle, so much better compared to without him. He's so important to what the Niners do in the run game as a blocker. And you combine him with a guy like Kyle Juszczyk, who Kyle Shanahan has started to use in a creative way and in a different way as a primary blocker as well. It really adds another dimension to this Niners offense. Now, George Kittle, over the last 6 games prior to him getting hurt too, backs up everything that I'm saying. I mean, he was on an absolute heater. And since Brock Purdy came into the league in 2022, they have been on such a great page. And Kittle's production has been all world. In the last 6 games prior to him getting hurt, Kittle's numbers were stupid. 40 catches, 499 yards, and 5 touchdowns. You get him back, that's a boost. Ricky Pearsall, kind of also questionable going into this game as well. I thought that he gutted it out against Chicago, and I thought that he had a big-time performance. Route running, timely catches, and him fighting through the pain, very, very impressive for a player up to this point who's been somewhat injury prone. All right, how is Kyle Shanahan viewing this game against Seattle? Not necessarily a playoff game. It's week 18, but there's a lot on the line. He had this quote today: "The season's not over if you lose, but you still got to go play a game the next week on the road if you lose, and you can completely avoid that by winning." So I see this as a playoff game too. It's a great line from Kyle Shanahan. The other thing too, you win, you get that first round bye. Kittle gets to rest up. Trent Williams gets to rest up. Your entire team gets to rest up. Maybe even Fred Warner gets some time to maybe get closer to potentially playing if you can make it to the NFC Championship game. And with what Kyle Shanahan said, I look at this as a playoff game. It really has that type of feel, right? And you got to love it as a fan. The Niners have had such a fun and entertaining season in which they have exceeded expectations given what has happened from an injury standpoint to the likes of star players like Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. And they've dealt with a lot of adversity. They've had to play a lot of young players and new pieces on defense. Yet, with all that being said, they still have an opportunity to potentially win 13 games this year and get the number 1 seed and home field advantage in the first round bye when Super Bowl 60 is at their crib. This is going to go down as a very memorable season. And if you get that bye week, it really helps you out as a football team, mentally, physically, spiritually, being able to have that week off. And then you can scout the other opponents across the NFC, and you can kind of get a head start on who you might play in the divisional round at home. You win that, you're in the NFC Championship game. You win that, you're in the Super Bowl. And what a magical Cinderella story that would be for the Niners. And the intensity that I felt this week, I know all of you can feel that because it really is palpable. It feels like a playoff game. Niners, Seahawks doesn't get much better than this or bigger than this, considering what is at play and what is at stake. And this is one of the best rivalries in all of sports. But I'll leave you with this. Is it still a rivalry, right? The Niners have won 7 of 8 games against Seattle. And for a long time there, when Pete Carroll was the head coach and the Seahawks were in their Legion of Boom era, and Russell Wilson wasn't appearing too much on Dick Clark's New Year's Eve showdown, and he was one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, the Seahawks owned the 49ers for a very long time, including when Jim Harbaugh was the head coach. Even at the start of Kyle Shanahan's tenure, the Seahawks owned the Niners. Now it has reversed, and that just adds to the intensity of this football game here. All right, just wanted to talk some Niners here on this Thursday night, pass along some of that injury news here for San Francisco. Content to come all throughout the week. Watch party coming up on Saturday. Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for your continued support, and I'll catch you soon. See ya.